It was a quiet night until the sound of sirens cut through the darkness. Somewhere in the shadows, one of America's most terrifying killers was about to make a mistake. For years, he had walked among people like a normal man. He smiled, spoke politely, and looked like someone you could trust. But behind that charm was a monster hiding in plain sight. His name was Ted Bundy, and on one night, his luck finally ran out. This is the story of the night Ted Bundy was caught, a night that ended years of fear, and a night that changed true crime history forever. The city streets were quiet under the dim streetlights. Cars passed slowly through the cool night air. Houses stood silently as families slept inside. Nothing about the night seemed unusual, but danger was moving through the dark. Somewhere on those roads was a man who had been hunting for years. He had traveled across states. He had left a trail of fear behind him. Police were desperate to find him, but he was always one step ahead. Before the night he was caught, Ted Bundy had already become a name whispered in fear. Women were vanishing. Police had few answers. Witnesses described a handsome man with a friendly voice. He sometimes pretended to be injured. Sometimes he asked for help. His charm was his most dangerous weapon. People trusted him without question, and that trust cost many lives. No one knew how far his dark secret went. Long before the police stopped his car that night, a different story was unfolding. It was the story of young women who never made it home. College campuses were filled with fear. Friends warned each other not to walk alone. Parents called their daughters every day. The fear was spreading, but the killer was still free, and he was still watching, waiting for his next moment, waiting for his next victim. One of those victims was a young woman with dreams for the future. She had friends who loved her, a family who believed in her. She was the kind of person who made people smile. She had her whole life ahead of her. But one night, she crossed paths with the wrong man, and everything changed forever. Her story would become one of many, each one more heartbreaking than the last, each one leaving police with more questions than answers. As months passed, the pattern became clear. The victims were young women. Many were college students. They disappeared without warning, sometimes in broad daylight, sometimes in crowded places, and yet no one saw the crime happen. It was as if the killer was a ghost, always there, but never caught. Police across several states began sharing information. Detectives worked late into the night. Photos of missing women filled their desks. Maps were covered with marks and notes. Every clue was carefully studied, but the killer remained invisible. Every time they thought they were close, he disappeared again. The case was becoming one of the most frustrating investigations ever, and the clock was ticking because more lives were at risk. Witnesses started to remember something strange. They all described a man named Ted. He was friendly. He spoke politely. He asked women for help with small tasks. Sometimes he wore a cast or used crutches. People felt sorry for him, and that was exactly what he wanted. His act was perfect, almost too perfect. Police heard the name again and again, Ted. But that was a common name. Thousands of men were named Ted, and there was little evidence to connect any of them to the crimes. Still, detectives could not ignore the pattern. They knew the answer was somewhere in the details. They just had to find it. But time was running out, and the killer was still free. Far away from the investigation, Ted Bundy continued living his normal life. He studied law, he had friends, he had a girlfriend who trusted him. To the world, he looked like a promising young man. No one saw the darkness inside him. No one knew what he did when no one was watching. The mask he wore was perfect, and that mask kept him safe, for now. But every killer makes a mistake eventually, and Ted Bundy was about to make his. The night was quiet and silent. The roads were almost empty. A police officer was patrolling the streets.
He was looking for anything unusual, anything that did not belong. And then he saw a car driving strangely. The driver seemed nervous. The car kept turning suddenly. The officer decided to follow the vehicle. Something did not feel right. The car slowed, then sped up again. It was as if the driver was trying to escape. The officer turned on his lights. The blue flash filled the dark street. The car pulled over, and the driver waited. That driver was Ted Bundy. At that moment, no one knew the truth yet. To the officer, it was just a traffic stop, just another driver on a lonely road. But something about the man inside the car felt strange. His eyes looked cold, his hands were shaking slightly, and the air around him felt heavy with secrets. The officer walked slowly toward the vehicle, not knowing he was standing next to one of the most dangerous men in America. And what he would find next would shock everyone. The police officer walked slowly toward the driver's window. The night was so quiet that even his footsteps sounded loud. Inside the car, Ted Bundy sat still. His face was calm, but his mind was racing. He had escaped suspicion many times before, but this time felt different. The officer leaned down and looked into the car. The driver smiled politely. He looked like any other young man on the road, but something felt wrong. The officer asked for his license. Bundy handed it over without saying much. His voice was quiet and controlled. He tried to act normal, but the officer could feel the tension. It was the kind of feeling that made police trust their instincts, the kind of feeling that said something was not right. The officer decided to look a little closer. He shined his flashlight into the car, and what he saw made him curious. There were strange items inside the vehicle: a metal crowbar, a pair of handcuffs, a rope coiled tightly, and a mask. None of these things made sense together. The officer felt a chill run through his body. This was no ordinary driver. This man was hiding something dark, something terrifying.
The officer asked Bundy to step out of the car. Bundy slowly opened the door. The cold air filled the space between them. For a moment, they stood face to face. One man was a police officer doing his job. The other was a killer who had been hiding in plain sight. But the officer did not know the full truth yet, not until he searched the car, not until the pieces started to connect, not until the name Ted Bundy would send shockwaves across the country. The officer placed Bundy in handcuffs temporarily. It was a standard procedure during a search, but this simple action would change everything. The officer began looking through the vehicle. Every item told a strange story. There was also tape and gloves and other objects that looked sinister. This was not normal. This was something much darker. Bundy tried to explain the items. His voice remained calm. He said they were just tools. He said he was a law student. He said there was nothing to worry about. But the officer was no longer convinced. The story did not make sense, and the feeling in his gut grew stronger. This man was not who he pretended to be, and the truth was about to surface. Back at the police station, detectives started asking questions. They ran his name through their system. The name came back with interesting information: Ted Bundy. The name had appeared in other investigations. Witnesses had mentioned a man named Ted, a man with a friendly voice, a man who asked women for help. Suddenly, the pieces started fitting together, and the room grew silent. Detectives looked at each other in shock. Could this be the man they had been hunting for? Could this quiet young man be the monster they feared? The questions filled the room, but the evidence was growing stronger. Every detail pointed in the same direction. Ted Bundy was no ordinary suspect. He was connected to something terrible, something that had terrorized women for years, and now the truth was closing in around him. As the evidence grew stronger, the mask Ted Bundy wore began to crack. Detectives connected him to a series of terrifying crimes across several states. The charming man people trusted was actually a calculated predator. His secret life was finally being exposed. The nation was shocked by what was being discovered. The monster who hid in plain sight was finally unmasked. Ted Bundy would eventually confess to many murders. His name would become one of the most infamous in true crime history, and all of it began with one simple traffic stop on a dark night, the night Ted Bundy was finally caught. Thank you for watching this true crime documentary. If this story shocked you, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Ted Bundy could have been caught earlier? We would love to hear your opinion. Please like this video if you enjoy true crime stories. Share this video with friends who love true crime. Your support helps this channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe for more true crime documentaries. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. And we will see you in the next true crime video.